Hi, I'm Ronnie from Ronnie's Garage. We're having our monthly tech meet, and today we're going to be talking about the Silver Shadow series, the differences between the Silver Cloud and Silver Shadow, and a lot of the features, hydraulics, and all that kind of stuff. Just so you know, any one of these cars is going to be a high cost of ownership. The Shadows were really bad.
A Cloud would be better than any of them, wouldn't it?
What?
A Cloud would be the best of any.
You get a well sorted out Cloud, and yes, you will be better off pocketbook wise. If you buy one that's not well sorted out, you will spend a lot of money, but once you do, I think that you will be fine for a long time. It's a much simpler car. The brakes are really not that bad once they're sorted. If it needs brakes when you buy one, then it gets expensive. But most of the Clouds that come in here, especially people that buy them, need major brake work. Only because they sit for a long time, water gets in there, seizes all the wheel cylinders, things start leaking. Master cylinders are aluminum, so it's an aluminum bore with a steel piston, and the aluminum it doesn't rust, but it corrodes. Yeah, Fred.
I thought there was a difference between the braking system and the one and the two and the three. The three seemed to be able to, when you're parallel parked, and I noticed it was much easier to park.
That's steering you're thinking of, right?
No, brakes.
The brakes are essentially the same. The early cars do have, I forget what the VIN brake and what year was, but that servo, the early ones had little spring plates that this dry clutch were riveted to. So they had a spongier feel.
No, but I'm talking about the stopping distances. As I recall, it was like 14 inches in one direction and 10 inches in the other direction before it even took effect.
That's all in how the system's set up.
Yeah, that's how it's adjusted, not different between the models.
Okay.
See, that's the big thing with that Cloud braking system, with that dry clutch booster, is when you change directions. That's the biggest problem. Because that clutch, you saw how I turned it. It pulled those rods for the master cylinder. That was just one direction. So when you release it, it's supposed to snap back, but when you go the other direction, it has to go that much before it applies the hydraulics again. So typically that feeling, let's just say you're in a parking lot, that's what you use, right? And you pull in, and then you got to back up. So you got that roll, so it has to unwind from the forward braking and then wind some more before the rear braking goes on. The trick to that kind of driving on those cars is to keep your foot on the brakes. So many people are so used to just taking their foot all the way off the brake. That braking system does not like it. So long as you're feathering that clutch, it's applying, right? So if you let off the brakes, then it unwinds, and then you got to reapply it. And I've had people with the Silver Cloud say my brakes are no good, and I go on a test drive and they do this. I'm going, stop doing that. Just put your foot on it and apply it, and then feather it. It works great. And most Clouds out there that come in that we've never worked on before, the brakes are way out of adjustment anyways. Nothing's working right. And that's why Silver Clouds get that bad rap for the stupid brakes that never work. And I have to argue with that because, in fact, that one customer I was talking about was doing this. I took it out with him and I nailed the brakes. I said, there's nothing wrong with your brakes. They work. And that was just some people. So
it's a driving technique issue. Is what it boils down to.
I refer to it as a hopefully dry clutch.
Yeah, well, okay, yes, that's a good point. It is a dry clutch. But there is a shaft that comes out of the transmission that holds in transmission fluid, and that's usually the cause of failure on those, is that seal fails and they become a wet clutch and it doesn't work.
So what's the best way to brake on the Silver Shadow, Ron?
It's like a normal car. You don't have to hold the brake on. As soon as you hit it, make sure your pressure lights aren't on. That's the first thing. Once they're out, you should be able to hit it. And just to qualify that, I'll get with you. And on the Silver Shadow, when the lights go out, that means they've hit that minimum pressure, not the maximum. Okay, so when the engines run, they're still building. There's no light that tells you maximum pressure. It's those lights are designed to come on, I think, below 800 psi. I think that's the number. So once it hits that, and remember we're going to 2200, so we still got a long way to go. So if you start it up and then the lights go out and you start to move it and you hit the brakes, remember you're depressurizing it, so the light might come back on. That's why they have that little warning tag on there. After 4 minutes is when you check the fluid levels. You shouldn't have to wait 4 minutes for the lights to go out and everything to go up, but that's how you know when it's all right.
You keep mentioning about the lights. When you first turn the key on before you start it, the lights come on. Pay attention to the lights. If a light doesn't come on, the bulb may be burnt. It's not going to tell you diddly.
You know this from personal experience?
I have heard stories, thank
Oh, okay.
God. But I'm just saying, check all your lights every time you turn on the car to make sure all the lights come up and they're telling you things. Then when you start the car, make sure the lights all go out. This means everything is going well.
So to piggyback on that, just so you know, on the early Shadows, they did not have that nice panel with the little labels on. They just had round little brakes, 2 red lights, and then they had fuel and coolant. Okay, so those are warning. Is it fuel? Yeah, anyways, they had 4. There is a button on the dash, it's a test button. So with the key on, you press that button, the light should light up. That's to test the bulbs. Okay?
On that one, on the
No,
silver
not on
shadow?
yours. That's on the
Silver
early
shadow.
one. And also there should be a warning buzzer. And that test button also should convert your fuel gauge to an oil level gauge. There is an extra line on the fuel gauge. It says minimum oil. It's orange, kind of brownish. So with the key on, the car not running, and you press your test button, you can check your oil without opening your hood. It's really elegant. And they used that way back in the post-wars. They had that. Early post-war. Now on 75 on, they changed the whole thing to with all these labeled warning lights. They had brake pressure 1, brake pressure 2. They had, at first they had master cylinder, 73 actually. And then they had low brake fluid. So that's when the sensors came in. So the way you can use those, and on the Shadow 2, is when you're in gear. So you can just take it and put it in gear, or anything out of park or neutral. And you take the ignition switch and you go to the start position. So the start position is when you crank the engine. Now remember, it's designed only to start in park or neutral. So you don't have to worry about starting the engine. But if you go to that cranking position, all the lights should light up. Okay, so that's how you test the bulbs. That's
Put it in gear.
so if the bulbs don't light up, then either your bulb is bad or one of the relays or
You have
whatever.
to come out of park.
Yes, you can't be in park or
Right.
neutral because you're going to
Come out
start
of
the
park,
car.
then
Yeah.
turn on the
They should
start.
come on when you do it, but that's how you can test the bulbs. Now on the brake pressure lights, what we do as a test here, usually on the service, is we will run the car for 3-4 minutes to make sure the system's all up to pressure and all that. Turn the car off, turn the key back on in park, and then start pumping the brakes, counting the pumps. You should get at least 30 pumps before a light comes on. Okay? So if you pump it until the next day and the light doesn't come on, you got a problem with one of your switches. It should come on by then. So that's how you test the switches. Now, unfortunately, sometimes during these services, when you depressurize them like that, if the switch is edgy, they get sticky and they'll either stick on or off, then it's hard for us to get the light out. When it gets up to pressure, sometimes a little tap of the hammer will do that, but that just still indicates that there's a problem with your switch. But a light never coming on is definitely something to address, especially a pressure warning light on a Silver Shadow, which is, one of them is half your braking system.